Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week, and if you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. In today's tutorial, we're making a top that's heavy on detail, light on size for the perfect weekend project that's ready for prime sun and fun. Speaking of, if you're looking to make something to wear while you have fun in the sun, you are in the right place. We have hundreds of modern crochet tutorials and patterns with even more dropping twice weekly, so consider clicking the bell to subscribe and you'll never miss an upload. Also, do me a huge favor and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to show support so I can keep putting out free tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Now it's time to get on the show, so without further ado. For this project, any category 4 yarn will work, but I used a total of 115 grams of yarn. That's 195 yards if you're stateside. As for tools, a 5mm hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order, and enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us if you are a minimalist or a maximalist. I do try my best to be a minimalist because I do not like clutter, but really, how minimal can we be with our yarn stash? Details for the giveaway down below. We're using 4 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, and double crochet. This tutorial is made for a size small and you can adjust it for your size, and I'll explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this top started, we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Then we're all going to grab our 5mm hook and start off by making an even numbered chain that reaches from mid boob to outer boob. I need roughly 2 inches or 5 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 8. Now that we have our chain, we're all going to do our first double crochet row. Block off that last chain and do a chain 3. That chain 3 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Yarn over, and into that 4th chain from our hook, or into that chain that we blocked off, insert with a double crochet. Insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Continue with 1 double crochet into every chain. Everyone's row 1 is complete. Start with a chain 3 to get started on our row 2. And flip our work. From here, put 1 double crochet into every stitch. So yarn over into that last stitch from our previous row, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Continue with 1 double crochet into every stitch. We should all still have the same amount of stitches as chains that we made, and we're just going to continue to repeat this double crochet row with no increases and no decreases until we have a portion that can reach from our under bust, so roughly where our underwire would be, up to mid bust. And I'll meet you back right after we complete an odd number row. The first portion of my cup is complete. I have a total of 3 rows. My height is roughly 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters. Now we're going to fill in the rest of our cup. So from here, chain 3 and flip. Start with 1 double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last one in the row. We have 1 stitch left. Now into that last stitch, do an increase of 5 double crochets. Into that last stitch with 1 double crochet. Same last stitch with a 2nd. Same last stitch with a 3rd. Same last stitch with a 4th. Same last stitch with a 5th. Into that increase, we all want to make sure that we're inserting our stitch marker into that 3rd stitch that we made. So here's 1, 2, 3. Insert a stitch marker into the top of that stitch. From here, we will be putting 2 double crochets into every side row. So yarn over, finding that first side row, find that top loop and insert with 1 double crochet. Into that same top loop with a 2nd double crochet. Again, into that following side row, find that top loop and insert with 1 double crochet. And with a 2nd double crochet, and continue this to reach the end of the row. The first curved row for our cup is complete. From here, it's going to be a repeat of this row, but instead of an increase of 5, it'll be an increase of 3. So, chain 3, flip our work. Put 1 double crochet into every stitch until we reach our stitch marker stitch. We have reached our stitch marker stitch. So into that stitch, we're all going to do an increase of 3 double crochets. So yarn over into that stitch with 1 double crochet, same stitch with a second, same stitch with a third double crochet. Now insert your stitch marker into that second stitch that we made, because now that is the middle. Continue with 1 double crochet into the rest of our stitches. Everyone's second curve row is complete. From here, we are going to continue to repeat our previous row. So chain 3, flip our work. 1 double crochet into every stitch with an increase of 3 double crochets into our stitch marker stitch, remembering to insert our stitch marker into that second stitch for the middle, and 1 double crochet into the rest of our stitches. And we're going to continue to repeat this row until we have a cup the height and the width that we'd like. So roughly from the side of our boob over to mid-chest, and making sure that the height is covering everything that you'd like for it to cover. I will meet you back right after we complete a total of an even number of rows, and then I'll meet you back. I am back and my first cup is complete. I have a total of 8 rows. My base width is roughly 4.5 inches or 12 centimeters, and my height is roughly 10 inches or 10 centimeters. We ended right after an even number row, so it should have ended within the middle, and I did do a chain up of 1 and cut. When we have 1 cup completed, make another cup that is exactly the same, but when the second one is completed, do not cut, because then we can connect the 2 cups together. We are back and we have just completed both of our cups. For my second cup, I did not cut because now we can connect our 2 cups together. So what we're going to do right after our second cup is chain 1, and then we're going to slip stitch it into the inner corner of our first cup. So all we're going to do, making sure that we're inserting into the inner corner, we're going to insert into that bottom corner stitch, yarn over, and gently pull through everything on our hook. Then do a chain up of 1 and cut, and now our 2 cups are connected. Now that our cups are connected, we're all going to get started with the top detail that's on top of our cups. So we're all going to start by inserting our hook into the top corner stitch of one of our cups. Now we're all going to want to make sure that we are not inserting our hook into that first stitch, but into that chain 3. Then we're going to pull through and start with a chain 3 as well, because we need the height. Then what we're going to do from here is chain 1. That chain 1 is going to count as our first chain space that we're about to do. So once we have our total of 4 chains, we're all going to yarn over, skip that next stitch, and into the next, insert with a double crochet. That should give us our first chain space. Let's do that again. Chain 1, skip a stitch, and into the next, insert with a double crochet. And from here, we're going to continue to chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet into the next, until we reach our stitch marker stitch. Now, depending on how many stitches we have, we might be worked into our stitch marker stitch or into the stitch right before. But once when we're worked into one of these 2 stitches, I will meet you guys back. Now we've just made our way down with our netting until we're worked into our stitch marker stitch, or if you're worked into the stitch before, that's fine too. Now what we're going to do is our middle detail. So right after that last netting that we did, we're all going to chain 1. Then we're all going to do a really long stitch, and how we're going to do that is going to depend on how many rows we did for our cups. So as an example, not counting our netting row, just for my cups I did a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows. So for my middle stitch that we're all about to do, the really tall one, I will be doing a yarn over of 8. Now as a really quick tip, we want to make sure that we're keeping this portion of our tension tight, otherwise there could be a little gap once we finish up with a stitch. So I'm going to, right after the chain, yarn over once, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for me. Then into that chain that we did in between our cups, we're going to insert our hook in through there. So I'm going to bring my hook down and into that chain, insert. Then from here, we're going to yarn over and pull through that chain. Then from here, keeping our tension tight, we're all going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left on our hook. So to do mine together, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through 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 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. And now this is my middle stitch. And if your cup is buckling up just like this, that's completely fine. It'll all even out once when it's worn. But what we're all going to do from here is basically mirror everything we did here on the other cup. So once we just have one loop left, we're all going to chain 1. Then we're all going to double crochet into the same stitch that we ended on this side. So since my last double crochet was worked into my stitch marker stitch, I'm going to do my double crochet into this stitch marker stitch. But if yours was worked into the stitch right before, you'll be doing your double crochet into the stitch right before. So I will be double crocheting into my stitch marker stitch. Then from here, continue to chain 1, skip a stitch, and double crochet into the next to reach the end of the row. So we are back. We have just completed our first row for our top detail. Now to get started on our row 2, it's going to be mainly a double crochet row. So chain 3 and flip. Now we're going to be putting 1 double crochet into every stitch and chain space until we're worked into our last double crochet before our middle stitch. So starting with that first stitch, yarn over into the top of that stitch with 1 double crochet, into our next stitch, which should be our chain space, with another double crochet, and I'll meet you back once we're worked into our last double crochet on top of this cup. So now that we put 1 double crochet into every stitch and we're worked into the top of that last double crochet on top of this cup, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So we are all going to be skipping over the next 3 stitches, so it should be that chain space, top of that middle stitch, and that chain space. And our first double crochet is going to be worked into the top of the double crochet on the other side of our cup. So yarn over, skip 1, 2, 3 into the top of that double crochet with a double crochet here. So it should give us just a tiny gap in the middle. Then from here, continue with 1 double crochet into every chain space and stitch to reach the end of the row. So our row 2 is complete. Now let's get started on our row 3, which is going to be another netting row. So let's all start with a chain 3 and flip. Now that we have our chain 3, we're going to do an additional chain 1. We're going to skip that first stitch and into the next with a double crochet. Continue to chain 1, skip a stitch, and double crochet into the next. And I will meet you guys back when we have 3 stitches left before the middle of our previous row. So all that means is this is our middle gap. I will meet you back when we have 1, 2, 3 stitches left. So we should be worked into that 4th to last stitch. We are back. We should all have 1, 2, 3 stitches left right before the middle. Then what we're going to do is skip 5 stitches. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then double crochet into the following. So yarn over, again skipping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, into that next stitch, insert with a double crochet. Then from here, continue on with our netting. So chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet into the next to reach the end of the row. We are back and I've just completed my row 3. Now from here, we're actually going to get started on the V-neck detail. So it's just going to be worked in panels, 1 at a time. But if you guys would like to add more rows to your middle detail, that's completely fine as well. If you do, continue to repeat our 2 previous rows till you get the depth of your desired neckline, and be sure to meet back right after a mesh row. Then we'll all do a chain 3 and flip. Now what we're all going to do is put 1 double crochet into every stitch, leaving 3 right before we reach the middle. So to get that started, yarn over, into that first stitch, insert with a double, next stitch, which is our chain space, with another double. So I've done my double crochet row, leaving 1, 2, 3 stitches before I reach the middle. Now we're all going to do a decrease of 3 double crochets. So we're going to start with the yarn over and into that 3rd to last stitch, pull through, 2nd to last, pull through, and last, pull through. We should all get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook. So yarn over, pull through the first 4, then yarn over and pull through 2. Now to get started on the following row, we're going to chain 3 and flip. Now what we're going to do from here is start this row with a decrease as well. So right after our chain 3, we're going to yarn over. We would typically chain an additional chain right after that, but we're not going to do that for this row since we're along the inside and we want a decrease. We're going to skip the first 2 stitches, so there's 1, there's 2. Into that next stitch, insert with a double crochet, and that should give us our first chain space. From here, we're going to continue to chain 1, skip a stitch, and double crochet into the next to reach the end of the row. And if you have an additional stitch at the end of the row, just put 1 double crochet also into that last stitch. We've just completed our netting row. Now let's do our following row, and that's just going to be a single crochet row with a decrease of 2 along the end. So chain 1 and flip. From here, simply put 1 single crochet into every stitch, leaving the last 2. Now that we have the last 2 stitches in the row, we're going to do a decrease of 2. So into that next stitch, pull through into the stitch right after that, pull through, yarn over, pull through 3. Now we're going to do another netting row that's just like our previous one. So chain 3 and flip. So just like this row, we're all going to yarn over. Skip the first 2 stitches and into the next, double crochet. Remembering that that first gap that we have doesn't actually count as a stitch, and this is the first stitch of this row because this is our decrease. From here, continue to chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet into the next to reach the end of the row. And don't forget, if we have 1 additional stitch at the end of the row, just put 1 double crochet into that last stitch. And now that we have our netting row, we're going to do another double crochet row, so chain 3 and flip. And put 1 double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last 2 stitches. Leaving the last 2 stitches, we're all going to do a decrease of 2 double crochet. From here, all we're going to do is continue to repeat our 2 previous rows with the same types of decreases until this comes down to a point. Once when it does, I'll meet you back. So we are back. I've made my way all the way down until my work came to a point. Now from here, we're going to repeat this section that we just did here on this side. So right after we've cut, insert your hook into the top corner stitch of the other side, then repeat. Once we have this completed, I'll meet you back. Alright, so we are back. We have just completed both sides of our V-neck detail. Now we're going to get started on the side/back panel. That's going to be pretty simple. What we're going to do is insert our same 5mm hook into the bottom corner stitch of our cup. Then we're all going to put 2 double crochets into every side row for the entire width of the cup, not the front panel detail. So insert your yarn onto your hook and chain 3. So again, 2 double crochets into every side row. That chain 3 doesn't count as a stitch. Starting with the yarn over, into that first stitch of side row, find that top loop and insert with 1 double crochet. Into that same top loop with a second double crochet. Continue with 2 double crochets into every side row until we don't have any more cup rows left to work into. Now that we put 2 double crochets into every side row for the cup, we're going to chain 3, flip our work, and put 1 double crochet into every stitch again. Now for this portion, all we're going to do is continue with our double crochets with no increases and no decreases until we have a portion that can reach mid-back. So when we're putting this up to ourselves, making sure that our middle stitch stays at mid-chest and each of our cups is covering what it's supposed to cover, then just continue to reach mid-back. Once we do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I'll meet you back to get started on the other side. We are back. I've just completed my side/back panel, which was just my double crochet rows until this reached mid-back. Now I have a total of 18 rows. This width is roughly 8.5 inches or 22 centimeters, and I did do a chain up of 1 and cut. Then once we have that, we're going to repeat the same thing on the other side for the same exact amount of rows. Once we have both completed, we're ready to seam it together. Once we have both sides completed, we're going to insert our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel, then yarn over and pull through everything on our hook. Then we're going to do a chain up of 1 to secure and a single crochet seam. So start by finding that first stitch into the front panel and insert only into that front loop. First stitch into the back panel and insert only into that back loop. Then we're going to single crochet everything together. Let's do that again. First stitch into the front panel, insert. First stitch into the back panel, insert, and single crochet. And we're all going to continue doing this, making our way all the way up. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, do a chain up of 1 and cut. So now that everything is all seamed together, we're ready to get started on the bottom band. So first things first, we're all going to make sure the work is flipped right side out, meaning the seam that we did for the back panel is now along the inside. Then insert our hook into any one of the side rows that we have along the bottom. And all we're going to do is put 2 single crochets into every side row. Then once we reach underneath the cups, we should have some regular stitches to work into. So just 1 single crochet into every stitch. And we're just going to continue that, making our way all the way around. And we do want to remember that we still have that chain 1 space in between our 2 cups. So just to do the first side row together, we're going to pull our yarn through and do a chain up of 1 just to secure. And finding our first side row, this is mine right here, I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 2 single crochets. So there's one, into that same top loop, there's a second, and that's it. We're going to continue doing this, making our way all the way around. Now, as a really quick tip, this single crochet row is going to be as wide as this portion can stretch. So once when it's completed, try your piece on. If your single crochet row is a little bit too tight, reduce some stitches with a looser grip, or if it's too loose, reduce some stitches with a tighter grip. Now that we've completed our single crochet row along the bottom, we're now going to make a chain the length that we'd like for the bottom band to be. I'd like for mine to be roughly 2 inches or 8 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 10. Now that we have our chain, we're going to do a slip stitch row, so block off that last chain and do a chain 1. Chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain, and into that second chain from our hook, insert, yarn over, and gently pull through both loops on our hook. Now I want to make sure that we're pulling through gently, otherwise the following row will be too tight to work into. Once more, into that next chain, insert, yarn over, and gently pull through both. Continue with 1 slip stitch into every chain. We are at the end of our row 1, now we're going to connect it into the base. So finding that next available stitch into the base, we're going to insert with a slip stitch, and that slip stitch doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Now we need to work our way up to the following row as well, so slip stitch into that next stitch into the base, flip our work, and now we're going to put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. So finding the last stitch from our previous row, not working into any of those slip stitches, insert into that back loop or the loop that's furthest away from you, yarn over, and gently pull through everything. From here, continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. At the end of the row, chain 1, flip our work, and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch, and I'll meet you back at the end of our row 3. We are back and at the end of our row 3. Now just to connect it into the base together once more, finding that next available stitch into the base, insert with a slip stitch. That slip stitch still doesn't count as a stitch, then work our way up to the following row by slip stitching into that next stitch into the base, flip our work, and continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. From here, continue to repeat our 2 previous rows with no increases and no decreases until we don't have any more stitches into the base left to work into. When we don't, I'll meet you back so we can seam it all together. So we are back. We made our way all the way around with our back loop slip stitch rows, and now we're going to seam it all together. So let's all make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then we're all going to insert our hook into that first stitch into the front panel, insert only into that front loop. First stitch into the back panel, insert only into that back loop. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops. Let's do that again. Into that next stitch into the front panel, insert only into that front loop. Next stitch into the back panel, insert only into that back loop. Then yarn over and pull through everything, and that's it. We're going to continue on with this till we don't have any more stitches left. Then do a chain of 1 and cut, and I'll meet you back. So we are back. We have just completed seaming up the bottom band. Now we're going to get started on the collar. So first things first, making sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, we are going to be inserting our hook into the top corner stitch of one of our front panel details. So as you guys remember, the last row that we should have had for this point portion that we have should have ended with just 1 stitch. We're going to insert our hook into that 1 stitch, then make an even numbered chain that reaches around our neck and then back down to the point on the other side. Now I went ahead and already measured mine out. I needed roughly 9.5 inches or 24 centimeters, and that was a chain 40 for me. So now that we have our chain, we're going to connect it into the top stitch on the other side. So we're just going to insert our hook into that stitch and insert with a slip stitch. Now that slip stitch doesn't count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then from here, what we're going to do is chain 2 and start with 1 double crochet into every chain, making our way all the way across. And then I'll meet you guys back once we're worked into our last chain. We made our way around, putting 1 half double crochet into every chain. Now we're going to work down the neckline. So what we're going to do from here is put 2 half double crochets into every side double crochet row, and then 1 half double crochet into our single crochet row until we reach the middle. So just to do the first few, so find that top loop and insert with 1 half double crochet, and into that same top loop, insert with a second. And we're just going to continue doing this, making our way all the way down until we reach the middle of our neckline. So we've just made our way down our neckline with our half double crochets. Now we're going to be putting 1 half double crochet into the middle. Now we don't have a specific middle stitch to work into. We do have these 2 stitches that are already occupied from our neckline. Just pick one of them, it doesn't matter which one, and insert with a half double crochet, and then insert your stitch marker into the top of this stitch so we know where the middle stitch is. Then from here, we're going to be working our way up our neckline, the same way that we did working our way down our neckline. We should have the same amount of stitches on both sides, and then once we made our way all the way up to our chain 2, I will meet you back. So now that we've made our way up our neckline, we're now going to close off the row. So making sure that our first row worked into the chain isn't twisted, we're going to find that second chain that we made and slip stitch into there. And that stitch that we just made doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then from here, making sure that we're working in the same direction as our previous row, so towards the chain first, all we're going to do is alternate between front and back post double crochets, and we're all going to start with a back post double crochet, making sure we're working in through the chain first. So starting with the yarn over, we're going to find the first half double crochet from our previous row, making sure it's not that chain 2, and do a back post double crochet. So we're going to bring our hook underneath our work, in through that gap, and then over the body of that first half double crochet and through the other side. Then yarn over and pull through. When we have these 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That is our first back post double crochet. Now let's do a front. We're all going to yarn over, inserting our hook underneath the body of that following half double. So in through that gap, underneath the body, and through the other side, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. We now have a back post and a front post double crochet. Let's do this set together once more. So yarn over, preparing for a back post double crochet. Bring your hook underneath our work, underneath, in through that gap, and over the body of that next half double crochet. Then yarn over and pull through. Then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Then to do a front post, yarn over, inserting your hook underneath the body of that next half double crochet and through the other side, pull through 2, pull through 2. And that's it. We're going to continue to alternate between a back post and front post double crochet, making our way all the way around. But we do want to make sure once we reach this middle stitch, we are inserting our stitch marker into that middle stitch once we're worked into there, and it does need to be a front post double crochet for everyone. Now, since we just did the math together, it should be a front post double crochet, but I'll meet you guys back at the end of the row. Alright, so we've made our way all the way around with our front and back post double crochets. Just to double check, we did insert our stitch marker into that middle stitch, and that middle stitch is a front post double crochet. And once when our row is over, we slip stitched into that second chain that we made to close off the row. Now the following row is going to be more back and front post double crochets, extending our previous row's ribbing until we reach our middle stitch. So let's do the first 2 stitches together. We're all going to chain 2, and making sure we're working in the same direction as our previous row, we should all have a back post double crochet. So yarn over. Bring your hook underneath that first stitch to do a back post double. And the next stitch is a front post double for everyone. So into that next stitch, insert with a front post double crochet. That's it. We're going to continue to extend our previous row stitches, making our way all the way around until we are 1 stitch away from our middle stitch. So we've just made our way all the way around with our back and front post double crochets, and we're worked into the front post double crochet that's right before our middle stitch. So we should all have 1 back post double crochet in between. All we're going to do whenever we reach the middle is skip that next stitch and then just work straight into the middle. And that middle stitch is still going to be a front post double crochet because we want a really clean pillar in the middle of our collar. So I'm going to take this out for now. And we're going to skip over that following stitch and just do a front post double into there. And don't forget to insert your stitch marker into the top of that middle stitch. Now once we have that completed, since we technically did a decrease on this side, we're going to have to do a decrease on this side as well. So starting with the yarn over, we're going to skip that following stitch, which is a back post double crochet for everyone, and into that next stitch, which should be a front post double crochet, insert with a front post double. Then from here, we're going to continue on per usual. Continue to extend our previous row stitches to reach the end of the row. When we do, slip stitch into that second chain that we made. So we are back. I have just completed my 3rd row for my neckline, and I am actually all complete. But if you guys would like to continue on with your neckline, it's going to be done pretty much the same way as our previous row. So just continue to extend our previous row stitches, making our way all the way up and around until we are 1 stitch away from our middle stitch. Then we're going to skip that stitch, work into the middle stitch, skip the following, and then continue to extend our previous row stitches. We're just going to continue that until you get the collar width that you'd like. But once we have that completed, do a chain up of 1 and cut, Then we're going to finish up with a side/back border. So to do the side/back border, what we're going to do is make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then into the second stitch that we have on the outside of our collar, we're going to insert our hook in through there and work down the side of our cup first. So as you guys can see, this is the outside of my collar. This is my first stitch here, and here's my second. So I inserted my hook into that second stitch. Then we're going to insert our yarn onto our hook. We are going to pull through, and working into that first side row that we have, we're going to insert with 3 half double crochets. So we're going to yarn over into that side row. Here is 1 half double, same side row with a second, same side row with a third. We're doing 3 half double crochets into this first side row just because we have a little bit more space to travel, but once we have that completed, it's going to be 2 half doubles into every side row, making our way all the way down. And we should have 1 side single crochet row, so 1 half double crochet is going to be worked into that 1 side single. We're just going to continue this, making our way all the way down, including into our side panel that we have here. So just 2 half doubles, making our way all the way around, and then all the way back up until we're worked into that last side row. Then I'll meet you back to show you how we're going to connect it into the outside of a collar. So we made our way all the way around with our half double crochet row and made our way all the way back up. Now I do want to make sure that into that last side row we are doing an increase of 3 half double crochets, just like how we started this piece off with. And now we're going to connect it into the outside of our collar. How that's going to work is we're going to count up the next 2 available stitches. There's 1, there's 2, slip stitch into that second stitch. Now that slip stitch into that stitch isn't going to count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then that's it. Go ahead and do a chain up of 1 and cut. And now that our half double crochet row is connected, we are all done. Last thing I have to do is just weave in all of our ends. And there you have it, y'all. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch you on the next one. Bye.